and welcome to Pandora's Books. Today I'm going to be talking through what I read in October and my TBR for November. This time I'm going to get my new kitten to pick what I'm going to read next month. We'll see what he goes towards. I don't know if he's going to go towards anything. Orpheus, come on. Oh. Come over here. Come over here, buddy. We'll try. He's now just looking at the camera. It's so cute. This month I didn't read as much as I usually do. I think I kind of hit a little bit of a slump. I think I just read a lot of really good books in a row, and then after that I was kind of nervous or unsure what to read after that, so I kind of had a slower month than usual. This month I only managed to read 5 books. I say only, like with a full-time job, that's a decent amount of books. So I read all of these books, 3 of which were in my Reading Which Books video. If you haven't seen that video, I read these 3 books in more depth, and you can see me vlogging my thoughts on these books, but I shall get into it. So the first book I read this month was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This book is set in 18th century London about an apothecary shop that sells poisons to women who want to get rid of oppressive men in their lives. This was such an interesting read. I go into more detail in the video, but I ended up giving this, I think, a 4.5 stars, if I remember correctly. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. I was worried about the historical element of the book, but honestly, if history or historical reads aren't your thing, I do think this is a great introduction to that genre. I will be interested to read more by Sarah Penner. This was also just a really great start to the month. Then I read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. This book I also read in my witch video. It's just such a cozy read. I would recommend this to anyone who just wants an easy, quick romance. It's cute, it's fun, and it's got some magical elements in it. And I would reread this in the future if I'm looking for something cute and cozy. Then I read The Crimson Moth by Kristen Cinderelli. This book is just perfect. Like, I hyped it up in my mind, which sometimes this is the bad thing to do because then you'll be disappointed, but I wasn't. This book is possibly my favorite of the year. I'm so excited for the second book to come out. If you are the type of person that doesn't like to read series before they're finished, the second book comes out in February, I believe. It is just a duology, which I feel like we need more duologies. Our main character, Rune, is a witch who has to hide her identity in high society, but she is a vigilante during night trying to save witches from being killed and gathered by witch hunters. And as you can probably guess, she falls in love with a witch hunter. It's like a cat and mouse chase in a way. It was such a fun read. I got through it so quickly. To be honest, these 3 books I got through so quickly, and then that's when I hit my slump, I think. But this book was just amazing. I would reread it. I would recommend it to anyone. It was such a fun, easy read, and I haven't fallen in love with a fantasy like this for so long. So well overdue, and I'm obsessed with this book. 5 stars, if you can't tell. The next book I read was The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I was a bit hesitant about this because I don't really read thrillers, mysteries. This book is about teenagers who get hired by the FBI to hunt down serial killers. And it is a really interesting premise. I got through this book very quickly. It's got a unique concept where you read chapters from the serial killer's point of view. That's not a spoiler because it happens literally like in the first chapter. It is a very quick read and it is very interesting. However, I'm a little baby and I get creeped out very easily. Put this setting in a fantasy and I'll be completely fine. Put a serial killer in a fantasy world and I will read it 10 times over. Put it in the modern day world where I can imagine it as I'm going to sleep and I'm done. Like, I'm not going to be able to stop thinking about it and creeping myself out. So I am tempted to read the next books, but also I just know that like I'm gonna creep myself out. I think I'll keep it in the back of my mind, and if I ever want to delve into the rest of this series, I will, but I don't think I'm gonna do it anytime soon. This book is good, don't get me wrong. It's just, I'm a baby, and it's not for me in that regard. It was very interesting though, and I would recommend it to people that do like mysteries, that do like thrillers. It's YA. I wouldn't call it YA in the sense of childish. It's still a very interesting read. And Jennifer Lynn Barnes has a degree in psychology, I'm pretty sure, that made this such an interesting read as well. And the plot twist did get me. If I wasn't so creeped out, I would have given this like a 4.5 stars, but I think I gave it a 3.5 instead, but that's just my own personal issues with thrillers and mysteries. After The Naturals is when I really struggled to think of what to read next. I wasn't in the mood for anything, and every book that I was looking on my shelves, I was just like, I don't know. So what I ended up reading was The 7-Year Slip by Ashton Poston, because I've read her other books and I absolutely love her other books. And I think this is probably her best book, or it's regarded as her best book in the reading community. And I thought this might get me out of my slump. Not that I was in a slump yet, but I could feel myself entering a slump. So I went with this book. I read this while I was on holiday, actually. We went to Budapest for a week. So I took this with me while I went on holiday. I will say the first maybe 60, 70 pages, it took me a bit to get into. I think that's just because of where my head was at the moment. But the moment I actually got into the book, past the 100 pages, I was in. Like, I flew through it after that. I finished it on the plane journey home. And I really enjoyed this book. It is a cute book. I do agree with everyone else that this is probably her best book. Ashley Poston's other books are also magical realism, and they all kind of seem to have this tragedy, wrong place, wrong time type of scenario. And while technically this does have that, I feel like her other books fix that in the epilogue or fix that in the last couple chapters, whereas this didn't feel like a fix at the end. The ending and where the journey of this book was going with a happy ending was interwoven with the whole book, rather than her other stories where the romance happens, then the tragedy hits, and then it gets fixed in the last couple chapters. So I do think this is probably her best book so far. I gave it a 4.5, I think. In the future, I could see myself giving this a 5, but I think it's just because it took me a bit to get into it that I gave it a 4.5. It is just such a fun book, and I would recommend it to anyone who's looking for a magical romance. And that brings me to the end of what I read in October. Not as much as I hoped, but it was a busy month with personal things. So 5 books is pretty good, I think. And hopefully in November I can read a bit more. I will now get my cat and hopefully get him to pick some books for me. I think the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to pre-select some books and then he can pick from that pile. And yeah, we'll go from there. I will have to say I do have one book on my TBR already, which is The Love of My Afterlife by Christy Greenwood, just because I've already started it. I started it the other day. I'm not that far through, only 50 pages or so, but this one is a definite on my TBR for this month. Now to get my kitten, which I don't think I've mentioned his name. He is called Orpheus, Orphe as a nickname, and we just got him last week, so he's been distracting me from YouTube stuff. I've been focused on him rather than on filming and editing. But he's just so cute, so that's my excuse. So I've picked 10 books here. I think I'm going to only get him to pick 5 for this month. So I feel like 10 is a good number for him to choose from. I'll put like 2 in front of him and he can pick between the 2. I'll just run you through the 10 that I've taken off my shelves. So I've got The Wisdom of Sally Red Shoes by Ruth Hogan. I have read her other book, Madame Barova, which I absolutely loved. I read that a couple years ago now, so I thought I'd get a second book by her. So this is one of the options. Then I've got Happy Place by Emily Henry. I've got Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld, Hello Stranger by Catherine Center, Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter, Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayura. I think that's how you say her name. Percy Jackson, Wrath of the Triple Goddess by Rick Riordan. And finally, The Wedding People by Alison S. Patch. So let's get Orpheus and he can pick between the books for me. So here's Orphe. He's so cute. Right. I've put down Happy Place and Assistant to the Villain.
You picked already.
No, that can't count. I just dropped him on there. What he's gonna do is gonna pick between Assistant to the Villain and Happy Place, and that will be the one that's on my TBR. Do we need to put a treat on them and see which way he goes? Oh, there we go. He's picked Happy Place by Emily Henry. That shall be the first book. The next is Hello Stranger by Catherine Center and Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. Round 2. Where are you going? You're just going to pick everything on that side, aren't you? Oh, he hasn't stepped on it yet. Oh, I think he's picked one then. Hello Stranger by Catherine Center will be the second one. The next is Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld and The Wisdom of Sally Red Shoes by Ruth Hogan.
He's rebelling.
He is rebelling. He doesn't want to pick. Oh! I'm taking that as Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. I feel like he just likes this side. The next is Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes and The Wedding People by Alison S. Patch. Of course you picked this side now that I've tried to trick you. So next on my TBR is Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. And lastly, we've got Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Percy Jackson, Wrath of the Triple Goddess. Final release of the cat. Oh. Yay. Good boy, Orphe. Good boy. His final decision has been made. He has chosen if he wants to get off Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Final choice, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Thanks, Guy. So Orphe has made his decision. We have got for my TBR for November, Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. This is about a scriptwriter for a late night TV comedy show finding love after she's abandoned all hope of finding someone that she likes. And she ends up falling in love with a pop star idol after she makes a skit about how stereotypically attractive celebrities will not fall in love with a stereotypically unattractive woman, but it's always the reverse in Hollywood. But then it happens to her. So yeah, this I'm really excited to read. The next book we've got is Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I've read The Bodyguard by her, which I really liked. So this will be my second book by her. And it's about a portrait painter who, after an accident, can no longer recognize faces. And she gets face blindness, as it's called. And she ends up falling in love with not one man, but two. But obviously she can't recognize them due to her face blindness. The next book I've got is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I've been meaning to read this for a while, since it came out last year, I think it was. This would, again, be my second Emily Henry book. The first one I read was You and Me on Vacation, which is also called The People We Meet on Vacation in the US. I'm kind of behind on the trend with her. The next book he picked was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. He picked a really chunky book. Thank you, Orphe. The previous books I read by her this year were young adults, so this will be my first adult book by her. It is about video game designers, I think, who were childhood best friends, and I think they fall in love. It's mostly about the video games, I've heard, but it's a really great read, and I've heard a lot of amazing things about it, so I'm excited to read this. And then the last book he picked was Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes, which is about Medusa, a retelling of her story. I think it's just told from her point of view and what happened to her to become Medusa, to become the monster that turns people to stone. He ended up picking, majoritively, all the books that I didn't want. The only one that he picked, the one I was hoping for, was Romantic Comedy and I think tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. All the other ones I tried to like switch around that, like, oh, he was picking with the ones on the right, so I put the one I wanted on the right, and of course the moment I do that he picks the one on the left. But I'm excited to read all these books. They should be good. Adding on the one that I'm currently reading, The Love of My Afterlife. I've got 6 books for this month. Hopefully I can get through a decent chunk of them. So that will be what I read in November. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I shall see you next time, and I'm talking about something else to do with books. Bye.